2008 hits and all my clients dry up because that's the financial crisis. All goes downhill. And then to boot, the girl I was going out with for about 3 months tells me that she's pregnant with my son. I don't even know where my next paycheck's gonna come from. I've got $300 to my name. I've got a kid on the way. I'm a responsible parent. I'm gonna make sure that I go and provide for this kid.
What do you think kept you going through that? Because I know you're big in faith, right?
Before becoming an entrepreneur, faith was a part of my life, but it wasn't the number one core value. There's those times that you go through in your life, everybody turns their back on you, but you gotta believe in yourself and you gotta know that God's on your side to guide you in the right direction in every single step.
Coming from that and being a business owner now, employing people, it's a proud feeling.
I had to go through that so that way I could respect a dollar. Because if you don't respect a penny, you don't earn a dollar. If you don't respect a dollar, then you're not gonna earn the $100. So I needed to learn that lesson of going really dirt broke so that way I could respect a penny.
Can you talk about the EDU space for people that don't know exactly what that is?
adHere is the fastest growing education lead generation firm here in the US. We're a first party media company where we do education lead generation. I got in back in 2008, which is the financial crisis. And it was the only space that I saw actually taking off.
Obviously, you're big into self-development. How much have you invested in yourself?
I would say I spent probably in the past 12 months, probably about $1.2 million.
What's the future for Ruben Resendez? What do you have envisioned is what it comes out of the next couple, 2, 3, 5 years?
Man.
Get ready to level your shit up with the LFG show. We travel the globe to bring you heavy hitters from all walks of life. We've been talking some serious business, from the best digital marketers, government contracting experts, to top athletic and celebrity doctors. We've got it all covered. We're talking to guys who cash in for billions with a B. And the best thing is, we're just getting started. So hold on tight. We're about to crank it up a notch. Get ready for next level networking and masterminds within the LFG community. Scared money don't make no money or honey. Hit the subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment, and let's fucking go.
Yo, we're back. Feel like I haven't filmed, or we haven't filmed in a long time. We did a shitload in Budapest. We got a very special guest all the way from the West Coast. He says the West Coast is the best coast. See about that, right?
Yeah. I know you want to be on the West Coast.
Nah, I like the West Coast. I like Cali. So we got Ruben Resendez. This guy's great guy, really fucking great business person. Been in the industry for a long time. He's a killer in the EDU space. He is the founder and the CEO of adHere, doing big things in the industry. His company's grown tremendously, and a very, very generous guy, man. You're willing to help people out, and you got a quote. We'll talk about that quote later. I'll let you say it before I screw it up. But I'm really honored to have you on the show, man.
Appreciate you, brother. Good to see you
good to see you too.
Absolutely. All the way to Miami. I just landed late last night too.
Late
just to be
last
on this show, just to be on the
Look at that.
LFG
That's
show.
fucking
over here
dedication
this
right
week.
there, man.
Absolutely. You're taking off like crazy and on fire. So I said, man, I got to be a part of it. I got to hold on to your coattails right there.
Hey, I appreciate that. Well, we saw each other in Colorado at Contact IO, right?
Yeah.
I was about to wrap up, and I almost missed my flight by that way.
That's right. You're like, I gotta go, but you're like, oh, dude, we gotta get some content real quick.
We did, but we got it out there, and I wanted kind of like a sneak peek of what we're going to talk about. You have such a great story, man. We're about to get into that. And that's the point of the LOG show, is like entrepreneurs and people, you hit points in their life, almost like people call them epiphanies. I call them LFG moments. Like, I got to fucking go. What am I going to do to get things going?
That's right.
And you did it. I think it was like 13 or 15 years ago, right?
Yep.
So I want to go back to those days. Before we do that, what exactly is adHere, and what does adHere do? And can you talk about the EDU space for people that don't know exactly what that is?
Absolutely. So adHere is the fastest growing education lead generation firm here in the US. We're a first party media company where we do education lead generation, where we generate leads for universities and colleges that are always looking for prospective students. So back in 2008, when I got in the whole entire industry, and I got into the industry.
Crazy time, by the way, 2008.
Right,
yeah.
Education lead generation, because nowadays you don't really hear too much about EDU lead generation, education lead generation, because so many people got filtered out, because many of the schools got really really smart on what they do and what they track. It really reminds me of what the ACA space is going through right now.
100%. Yeah.
Regulations, compliance. You can't say that scholarships will be available. You have to say scholarships may be available. You can't say tax reductions will be available. You have to say may be available. Those type of things. I see ACA going through that right now. EDU went through that back in the day, and it filtered so many different people out that got into EDU, education lead generation, just to make a quick buck. So I got in back in 2008, which is the financial crisis, and it was the only space that I saw actually taken off. And yeah, we could get into the details of how I got into it and everything too, but it's a little bit of a crazy story.
Well, I wanted to, that's you said some really good stuff there. I didn't think about. So in 2008, I was at a student loan consolidation company. I was running the call center. The place blew up, right? And it was like this. The owner sold it, made 51% of it, made a ton of money, and then he sold at the top. Then it came down because it was the government made it where student loan consolidation was all backed by the government. It wasn't private companies anymore. But I remember, because I've been trading stocks for 20 something years. You had Corinthian colleges. The stock symbol was COCO. There was a couple other ones. There was one, I think EDU was a symbol. I forgot the name of that one. But they were all, the thing with lead gen is you have to watch those markets too, because you can see where the money's flowing. Those stocks are going from 1 to 200, 300, and then they started cratering, right? And that's around the time they started going to like 2006, 2007, 2008, and then boom, they started going down tremendously. So you follow that wave, but that was one wave that you saw making money while everything else was going to shit, right?
Yeah, back in the day, and probably still to this day, talk shows. I don't watch TV very much these days, but still on talk shows back then of like Ricky Lake, Maury Povich, and what is it, Montel Williams? All the commercials that would play during those talk shows. Those are all the big lead gen stuff going on at that time. Probably even still to this day, if you watch some of those talk shows today, probably whatever's playing during the commercials during that time is probably what's hot in lead generation. You'd always see Corinthian College commercials all the time. DeVry University commercials all the time. University of Phoenix commercials all the time. In those days, you couldn't avoid watching those talk shows without seeing one of those commercials all the time. And that's when EDU was hot. It was absolutely the wild, wild west, because none of those schools were tracking what's my cost per application, what's my cost per enrollment, what's my cost per start of students. They were just like, hey, send me as many leads as you could possibly send us. We need to keep all these reps and admissions reps as busy as possible, because we got thousands of reps and there's big old huge call floors that they're running of just getting students in and getting students enrolled constantly over and over, because it's online. So it's like, hey, we could take as many students as you could possibly send us. And they weren't tracking any of the metrics or anything like that. But then they got a little bit more smart in about 2010, 2012 was when they started getting smart of actually tracking the metrics and saying, what are we buying? And is it working? Is it not working? And that's when it just started filtering people out too. And people were doing stupid stuff too about like just doing ads for like Obama for mamas, like go back to school. Obama wants to go back to school, like stuff like that. It's similar to like what ACA is going through right now too, of just like using governmental figureheads at that time. So that's what really filtered a lot of people out. But hey, we stuck with it. We just stayed above board. We said, oh, we're always going to operate in a pretty white hat way, but we kind of know where the limits are of going to the gray hat side. That's where all my affiliate friends come through. In the affiliate industry, you always have people that are always pushing the limit on what's next. And that's why I love, like, most of my friends are all affiliates. So I always know what they're pushing the limit on. And I was like, oh, okay, I see where it going too far is going too far. And I know exactly, I could test some things that you're doing there, but do it in a white hat way instead and continue on with it. And we've been pretty successful with it after 13 years. I've been in the industry for over 16 years now. In the education lead generation specific industry for the past 16 years, which is wild. So I think this is great, because I don't think I've had a guest on the show that's doing EDU. Or maybe, I don't know if they've even done it before, but you're like the guy I know. I mean, like me, people know me from solar. I've been doing solar for so long, right? And what you're saying kind of reminds me of what's going on with solar right now, because solar was all about back in 2016, government this, pictures of Obama, pictures of Trump, or whatever, right? And then you had this consolidation going on, like a weeding out, and we're still doing it now. The numbers aren't as good as they used to be, but we're still here. And now I'm working on some other stuff related to solar, related to energy that I think is gonna be next level. But the point is that you got to stick it through, right? It washes the people out, and it is so much like ACA, what you see going on there. All these floors,
they wanted back in student loan consolidation, they wanted leads, AC, give me leads. It's like voracious appetite, right? But it can't last forever. Is what it comes down to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some of the people will actually go deep, like how you went deep into solar. Yeah. You went super deep, and you're finding businesses that are parallel to solar that goes with those prospects. Same exact thing with us too. It's like I always, one of my mentors once told me, follow one course until successful. That's what FOCUS stands for, FOCUS. Follow one course until successful and go super deep. And that's what I find challenging. I'll mentor a lot of people and early entrepreneurs. They're like, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of crypto. Then I'm going to do a little bit in the CBD space. And I'm also doing this e-com thing. And I'm also doing this other thing. It's like, get good at one thing and go super deep in that one thing. Then start going into the multiple streams of income that you hear about on the Instagrams and on social media and on TikTok and such too. But get good at one thing so you're known for that one thing. And then you could start spreading your wings once you're great at that one thing. And you hire on people later on to take care of that one thing that you're really great at, so you can go and expand even further and provide even more from there. So that's what you're doing. That's exactly what we're doing right now too.
Yeah, I love, that's great advice. Again, I talked about this before. There's so much shiny object syndrome, insane amount in our industry. I just came from Budapest, and man, everyone's doing casinos, Nutra, huge amounts. And I think Nutra, especially because of Ozempic, the weight loss. And then like you come at it like, fuck, should I be doing this too?
Right.
And you look into it, but I'm working, like home improvement's working well for me. It's related, homeowners, solar, home improvement. It's all connected,
roofing,
right? So why am I going to get sidetracked and all this other? But it is tempting, man.
It is.
It really is tempting.
Yeah.
You know,
it's easy to say it and easy to say like, follow one course till successful. But when it's in front of your face all the time, especially in our industry, I feel like we're the best industry that you can possibly be in, because we're at the cutting edge of what's good and what's not good. And we can always pivot so quickly. With wherever the economy is, we're always going to be good, because whatever the economy does, whether it's up or it's down, there's still opportunity in our industry all the time. But you just got to stay ahead of it. And just like how you go to every single conference, you got to make sure that you're always on top of what's the pulse that's out there, but still keep your blinders on to some things of like, okay, I got to run my race. Like I see all this exciting stuff and big money to be made in all these other areas. Let's keep the blinders on to win the race and where we're at right now.
Yeah. And man, there's so much to unpack there. And I want to go back to how you got into this and how, why exactly EDU. There's so much. I mean, I've heard a lot of other podcasts. You've been on, all great. I mean, there's one of them I heard you on. I was like, I text you right away, man. You got me. I was on a plane, man, and I was so pumped up. The flight didn't land for another 3 hours. Like, oh my God, I want to like run through walls already. I'm like, because you're so many nuggets you dropped on when I was on that flight listening to that podcast. So let's go back to the beginning, because you have such an amazing story. Inspirational story. I think I want to use, a lot of people probably know who you are already, but the people that don't know you, I want them to hear that, because we all, especially in newbies, we start in this industry, there's so many freaking ups and downs, life circumstances happen, and putting your head above there so you don't get get yourself stuck in the mud.
Man, ain't that the truth? It's a roller coaster. And it's crazy too, because, I always tell this story because, so my kids, I've got 2 kids. I've got a 16-year-old and a 15-year-old. And then my wife, we always go to Disneyland California Adventure at least once a year, because we're out in California. Orange County is not a very far flight. We could go there on a Friday, come back on Sunday night and such. So we do it at least like once a year. We take the kids out there. We have an amazing time. But every time we go there, my sons, they love to go on to this one roller coaster that's there called the Incredicoaster. They love going on the Incredicoaster. It's going quick. You stop, and then like all of a sudden you go super fast, and you go upside down. You go and do twists and turns and everything. And they like doing it at nighttime too, because at nighttime it's even crazier. But they get so excited to go on it. And then my wife comes up and she's like, nope, not going on it. Not going to do it. I'm not going on that roller coaster whatsoever. Not even going to step foot on it. Don't even try to get me onto it. I'm going to hold all your guys' things. I will throw up if I went onto that thing. I'm not doing it. And that's the way that life is too, is like you could either look at life as excited because you're excited to be on that roller coaster. It's the same roller coaster to go on, but one person looks at it as if it's something crazy and scary and the most scary thing possible that you could possibly go on to that's going to make you throw up. And then another person looks at it as, man, this is exciting. The tosses and the turns and the twists and the upside downs. And that's why most people are not entrepreneurs, even though they want to be entrepreneurs. But you got to expect the ups and downs. You got to be excited about it too. Every time you have the ups and downs, you've probably experienced this too, is that, when you get the down and you're in the down, you're like, dang, everything's piling up on me all at one time. The family stuff, the personal stuff, the business stuff, the partnerships and all that stuff, all at one time, it comes crashing on you. But on the other side of that, there's so many great blessings that you would have never have experienced if you didn't go through that whatsoever. And it's always those reminders that as entrepreneurs, we always need to remind ourselves, like, even though you go through some of the lows, there's some of the highest highs that are coming right after those lows. So that way you could handle those lows from there too. So man, it's exciting being an entrepreneur, but I'll tell you, the start of it is kind of crazy in how it all works, that everything always happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer that there is no such thing as coincidences. It's always happening for you, not to you. And the way I believe that is because my whole entire life is just a testament of that. About 16 years ago, I was doing financial services and doing mortgages. 2008, mortgages, refis, 1% loans, all that stuff, the interest only loans, the no income, no asset type of loans. And it was going crazy being in Silicon Valley. Interest only loans.
That was been such a crazy time. Like, I was in student loan consolidation. I kind of wish I saw what that was like. That was fucking talking about products that pretty much sold themselves, right? No interest loans is insane. No money down.
And the rips on that too were like 6%. You would earn 6%
See, I didn't know
of
that
like
side,
a $500,000 loan.
Wow.
So, and you could do that within like 3 days.
Imagine that's the kind of, you see these real estate shows, the one in New York, Ryan Serhant, the one in Beverly Hills. Like, they would have had shit like that back then. There was no Netflix back then to show that side,
100%.
Right?
That would have been crazy. It's probably a good thing, actually. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because like you have the Big Short that's based off of now,
Correct.
of like that whole entire crazy time in the mortgage crisis that was going on. But I was right in the thick of it, where we're like young and stupid and crazy of just trying to write loans, learn how to sell and all that good stuff. So 2008 hits and all my clients dry up because that's the financial crisis. All the mortgage loan stuff and everything like that all goes downhill. All my clients dry up at that time. I'm living on 100% commission. And then to boot, the girl I was going out with for about 3 months tells me that she's pregnant with my son. So I was like, okay, great. I don't even know where my next paycheck's going to come from. I've got $300 to my name. I need to go get one of those JOBs. And all my mentors always said, never get a JOB. A JOB stands for just over broke. Never sell your time for money or anything like that. And that was just drilled into my head, which got me into entrepreneurship and got me into the way of thinking of like, okay, I got to build something for myself. I was like, man, I've got a kid on the way. I'm a responsible parent. I'm going to make sure that I go and like provide for this kid. So I went and looked for a job on Craigslist, and I found this internet marketing company that was doing lead generation in the education space. I had no idea what lead generation was or what affiliate marketing was, and they had an affiliate network, and they're paying a $30,000 salary. So I was like, I need a paycheck like yesterday. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna show up in my like suit with the stain on it and everything like that too. I just need to get a job. I don't even know what it is. So they end up hiring me, and I was an affiliate manager managing all these affiliates. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I just knew how to make calls and I knew how to sell. And they were like, yeah, just call these affiliates. They've been dormant for a while and tell them to run this link, send them this link. I was like, I don't even know what the link is. It was like a education link, an education portal.
So this is like, it's like a win back campaign. You're trying to get the old affiliates back on, give them a new offer.
Exactly. So it was an affiliate network that just had all these old affiliates that were kind of sitting around and dormant, and they weren't running offers at that time. So I called every single affiliate on that list and just say like, hey, yeah, I'm new over here, and we've got this link and this new offer here. It pays out $20 per lead, and it's education, lead generation, all this different stuff. They're like, yeah. Send me the link and I'll implement it. So I'll send them the link, and then they implement it. And then about 30 days later, we send them a $250,000 check. Yeah. And then I like run into thousands of them that were like this. And I was looking at all the stats like, dang, there's thousands of these people we're sending $250,000 checks to every 30 days. And every time I try to get a hold of them, they're always traveling all over the place. They're making big money. And I look them up online. I'm like, man, these guys are like 19 or 20 years old. Yeah. Like, what the heck am I doing? Like, what is this thing? Yeah. I didn't know what it was whatsoever, but that was the day that I got obsessed. I said, I don't know what this thing is, but all I know is I need to know every single player that's in this business. I need to become friends with every single player that's in this business. And I need to know how to do it myself somehow in some way. So I just became obsessed about it from there. And that was like back in 2008. Education was on such a high point right there at that time too. So after maybe about 4 years of doing that, that's when I was like, all right, instead of making somebody else rich, and I ended up started making 6 figures over there too. I was like, I should probably start making myself rich instead. I don't know how to build a business. I've lived on 100% commission as just a self-employed individual. So I don't even know where to start. I don't come from an entrepreneurship background. Nobody in my family were ever entrepreneurs. My dad worked at the water company. My mom worked graveyard so she could make a couple extra dollars an hour at like this fab company that was over in Silicon Valley. So like, nobody in my family are ever entrepreneurs. I grew up on the east side of San Jose, which most people say is like the wrong side of the tracks. I dropped out of college. I had a kid out of wedlock, like all of that stuff. So I didn't know how to build a business, but Google did.
Yeah.
YouTube University did. So
all you need.
When people come to me and they say like, I don't even know what to do next, it's like, dude, there's the internet, there's ChatGPT now. They'll tell you exactly what to do step by step on how to build a business, how to create a business, how to create an LLC, how to buy a domain name, how to create a website. So I taught myself how to develop websites. I taught myself coding and taught myself graphic design, all that different stuff. And just did that for years upon years and would stay up until like 2:00 in the morning until eventually that job I was working at got notice of like, hey, this guy isn't as focused as he was. So they ended up firing me. And that was the biggest blessing that I ever had, is actually getting fired from that job, because now what plan B was this adHere company. That was plan B to fall back on. Now plan B had to become plan A. There was no more plan B. So that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. So once that happened, I said, man, I'm going to go all in on this thing and build this thing up. My son was born for a reason to point me in this direction. I would never have found that job, would never have found this industry if he were never have been born. So everything always happens for a reason. So I said, I'm going to go all in on this thing. I didn't know you could raise money. I didn't know that you could get business loans and all that stuff. I just knew I needed to make a business that actually made money.
Yeah.
So like, I'm just going to go all in on this thing. So eventually let my house go and move back in with my parents in my early 30s. My son and I and my parents, my early 30s. My parents don't come from money. So ended up going on food stamps to get my son some benefits and health insurance and all that good stuff too. Went through so many different challenges during that time. But after about like 2 or 3 years of just continuing to pour it in, never taking money out of the business, then we ended up where we are now today.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's a great story. And for you to still see the light at the end of the tunnel, especially at that point, your son was probably like 3-4 years old when this was all going on, right?
Yep.
And what do you think kept you going through that? Was it? Because I know you're big in faith, right?
That's right.
That's faith. Your son, I feel like, what was your why? Maybe all those things, right?
Yeah. To be honest with you, before becoming an entrepreneur, faith was a part of my life, but it wasn't the number one core value in my life like it is today.
Okay.
I think as I went through many of those challenges, there's those times that you go through in your life where like everybody turns their back on you. Nobody believes in you, but you got to believe in yourself, and you got to know that God's on your side to guide you in the right direction in every single step. That there's one thing, one person in this world, the creator of the universe, is always going to be on your side to guide your steps in the right direction. Even when everybody else turns their back on you, even when you want to turn your back on yourself, there's someone that's always looking out for you to say, you need to do this. This is your destiny, and you got to push forward. And going through those moments, that's where my faith grew a lot stronger, because in those moments, I didn't have anybody to really lean on. It was just me in that little room, and nobody else really believed in me. Nobody else knew what I was doing. Everybody thought I was just some unemployed kid that was like there, and some like deadbeat dad that was there in my room with my parents and all that stuff too, that nobody believed in that whatsoever. So that's where your faith has to get super strong, that you got to believe that there's a creator of the universe that's guiding your steps. And that's when I started looking back of like, man, there's actually all these moments happen for me instead of to me. Like my son was born for a reason to point me in this direction. Even when I wanted to go back and work at a job, and I got offers to get paid like 6 figures working at a job and all that stuff during that moment. But I looked at my son like, man, I'll be doing my son a disservice, and him being born and pointing me in this direction and going through all these challenges wouldn't be worth it if I were to give up now and just go the easy route and say, okay, sure, I'm going to go and take that job. And I even interviewed at many different jobs, and they're like, hey, so you're going to have to wind down that whole business thing that you were starting up over there. And I was like, that's the game. That's the breaker right there. No, I've got to have that business still running. And thank goodness, because now we have over 24 full-time employees, 90 contractors that all get fed from the business that we generate now to this day, which is exciting.
Yeah, it's crazy that again, and we talked about this before. At one point, my mom was on food stamps. Came from Venezuela. She worked hard all her life. I remember when I was like 6 or 7 years old. Crazy day. We got kicked out of some place, and she's dropping her stuff everywhere. And the food stamps look like funny money. Is what it looked like. And I don't know what it looks like now. Probably the same thing as like colorful or whatever, man. But like, coming from that and being a business owner now, employing people, it's a proud feeling to
It
be
is.
able to get through all of that. Right? Would you agree with that? And like,
Oh, absolutely too. And I think I had to go through that so that way I could respect a dollar. Because if you don't respect a penny, you don't earn a dollar. If you don't respect a dollar, then you're not going to earn the $100. If you don't respect $100, you're not going to earn the thousands. And if you don't respect the thousands, you're not going to earn the millions and the billions all from there. So I needed to learn that lesson of going really dirt broke so that way I could respect a penny. Because otherwise, coming from where I come from, if I would have saw what I see in my bank account now, and then I would have went crazy. I would have did stupid stuff. I would have probably blew it all and never would have even hired one employee because I would have blew it all on stupid stuff and I would have ended up right back where I was right in the very beginning. But something that I teach my son and I teach other people too is like, hey, every time that you walk by a penny on the floor, you pick it up and say, dang, I'm a money magnet. Woo, I'm a money. And that sounds stupid to some people, but you got to do some corny stuff like that too. So that way you can start playing games with your mind of like getting a good relationship with money, getting a good relationship with wealth, because where I come from, there wasn't a good relationship with wealth. I always heard like, no, that's too expensive. We can't do that. No, like, we're only going to go on one vacation a year, or we're only going to do this small thing just because it's not expensive. And I grew up in an amazing, loving household and such too, with amazing, loving parents. But the mindset of scarcity ran rampant within our family lines. So in order to change the mindset of abundance, you got to look at the little things too. Of like, if I walk by a penny, I'm going to pick that up and say, "Man, I'm a money magnet," and it starts money's coming to me and flowing to me every way. I remember when we were first getting our initial checks from clients. Every time it would come in, we were working at a little like co-working space. So the secretary was there. Every time she would hand the checks on over to me, I was like, "Oh man, Julie, look at this. We just got a new check right here. Give me a high five so that way I can anchor it into my mind." And every time she was like, every time we get mail, so another check, and another check that's coming in. I just wanted to anchor it into my mind so that way the abundance continues to go of like, man, we're just overflowing with abundance and wealth right there. But some people, they'll walk across that penny and they'll say, "Oh, I'm not going to pick it up because it's dirty, or it was in a puddle, or it was on tails, it wasn't on heads." They'll make conditions on money, but then that's majority of the reason why they're broke and they're not living in an abundance mindset, because they put conditions on money, and their relationship with money is based off of conditions like that, rather than just an abundance of like, money is overflowing in my life and I'm providing for so many different people and helping so many different people too. Kind of like we're talking about, the more people that we help to get to where they want to go, the more that I'm going to get to where I want to go. And we just have to have that mindset.
Wow, that was some powerful stuff you just said, man. God, we could talk about that for days. And when you were talking about, that resonated with me about the family and the scarcity mindset. I was gonna say scarcity, and you said it, and I think a lot of it has to do. I mean, you Mexican, you're back there, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
My mom's from Venezuela, right? My dad was Polish, but the Hispanic, I think, work ethic is incredible, right?
Absolutely.
I got my work ethic from watching my mom's side of the family. I grew up with them mostly. Man, my mom worked 16-hour days, like crazy, but she wasn't getting paid much, but like every dollar meant a lot to her, right? So it's funny because you do have that scarcity mindset growing up. You have to break out of it, right? And I went to NYU during the dot-com bubble. And bro, I had that scarcity mindset, and I had this belief. I think I've talked about on the show where I thought rich people were bad. I'm like, fuck those guys. Capitalism is bad. I was like very anti-capitalist for a while, and then I went to school during the dot-com bubble, and I'm working with these people that are making money. I'm like, these guys are actually cool. These guys are philanthropists. They're helping me out. Whatever. I'm like, this is bullshit. But I got conditioned that from where I grew up. I grew up in areas where no one had freaking money, man. And then you start to believe that. You become what you see, right? That's all I saw. So I had to kind of break out of that too, man. But I think a lot of it has to do with like the Hispanic. Maybe it's a generational thing too. Coming to America, not having much, I got to save whatever I got, which I get. Whereas, we think about, you got to save obviously, but how do you generate more income? Like, how do we generate more? So where do you think you broke past that scarcity mindset? Mine happened in college. And right after college, I had a job as a trader, a proprietary trader. I saw guys make 50 grand, 100. One guy made 300,000 in a day, and like 2 days later he made $1 million. I'm like, fuck, if he can do it, I can do it. Right?
That's
Seeing is
right.
believing, right?
That's
So
right.
when did you break out of that, man?
Man, that's a good question right there, of like the time when I broke out of it.
Yeah, you can think about that. Yeah.
You're completely right too, because I still have one of the pictures that I have on my desk sitting in right next to my laptop. Every single day I see it and I look at it, because my grandfather on my mom's side, he was my best friend. He took me fishing all the time. He's the one that taught me how to fish, but he also taught me work ethic in a blue collar way. He worked 3 jobs, raising 6 kids. In a Hispanic household, especially a Mexican household, it's like hard work. That's all. Hard work, sacrifice, hard work, sleep 2 hours a day, just hard work. So I look at that, I was like, man, he taught me how to work in a blue collar way, but now I could do it in a white collar way. So if I take that blue collar work ethic and put it in a white collar atmosphere, man, I am unstoppable at that point. So that's when I started taking it. But then the scarcity mindset comes in of like, okay, you got to work 24 hours a day, every single day in order to do something great. But you start getting around wealthy people and you realize like, oh, wealthy people actually utilize leverage. So they want to create big things. And in order to create big things, you need big teams at the same time. So that means we got to create teams and create leverage. That way we can go accomplish bigger and greater in this life, where I don't have to be working my butt off all the time, but I could work in a smarter way instead of a harder way. But if I could do both at the same time, smart and hard, oh man, you become unstoppable. And you continue on. You do it in a smart way where you could do it for a long, long period of time, and your family doesn't get hurt at the same time too. You could have it all. And I think it's getting around mentors. Once I started getting around mentors and seeing wealthy people actually how they live, I'm like, man, they're not like how I seen on TV. Because I think we get distorted. That's where the scarcity mindset comes from, that it's not just a Hispanic culture or Mexican culture. It's more of like just TV culture and social media culture. You'll see the bad guy on movies, like if you watch Wall Street, the bad guy is the wealthy guy. You go and watch so many different movies on Netflix, the bad guy is the wealthy guy. Why does the bad guy have to be the wealthy guy? Because all the wealthy people I have met, they're the ones changing the world. They're the ones that are saving jungles in Uganda and saving kids in Uganda, saving kids in Nigeria, so like doing huge things where they're making changes in this whole entire world, and they're funding those changes in the whole entire world. Those are the wealthy people that I know. But then in the movies, you're going to see, and on TV, the wealthy guy be the bad guy all the time. So then that's what distorts our minds of thinking that wealth is bad. And that's what I grew up in, thinking like, oh, you have to be a bad guy in order to be wealthy. But the more and more I get around wealthy people and people that are doing something amazing in this world, like the more and more I realize that it's all of the abundance mindset. It's the mindset that they bring to the world, and that they're amazing people. And they go, and most of them want to stay hidden because they get attacked and they get criticized by most people every time that they want to do something great. But that's everything. Anytime you want to do something great in life, the critics are going to jump out of nowhere. Somebody's going to have a challenge with it, whatever it might be. But then that's where you just have to have mental toughness to go through it and say, hey, this is what I am meant to do. This is my destiny. No matter what you say, I'm still going to do it because I'm helping people get to where they want to go. So
this is great stuff. And I want to go back to one other thing there. The opposite of law of scarcity is the law of attraction, right? Law of abundance. And man, it's just crazy how when you make that shift, how it really starts coming. Like when you talk about a penny or a dollar, whatever it is, it really happens. I mean, I remember I'd get like these little, I'd have guys like smaller solar companies we do on board, and maybe it was like a $500 order. And at first, I'm like, why am I spending time on the $500,000? But I thought, you know what? If it was like an age file, I just made X amount of money for like 10 minutes of effort. That's like making $3,000 an hour. That's fucking good, right? So that's how I train the newer reps. Like, listen, you get an order like that, blah, blah, blah. That's what you do. But it's really, it's like hitting singles, doubles, triples, and the home runs come, right? The other day, I'm a Mets fan. They're playing the Dodgers now, right? But I'm a Mets fan, and Francisco Lindor hit a grand slam, right? They were losing. Well, I think it was one. I don't know what the score was. I was on Aruba. And then I just walked by. I thought it was just a one. I didn't realize the bases were loaded, but you keep chipping away. You're going to have your singles. Then you have your doubles. So you have a triple. Then you get your freaking home runs, your grand slams, right? And that's it all starts up here. You got to be ready for it. If you're not ready for it, it's not going to come to you.
Oh, 100%. It's a law of attraction. You will attract exactly who you are. So the inside it makes a big difference. The book that I read, and I was thinking about this too, that really changed my mind, was Think and Grow Rich. Because I used to think like, man, nobody in my family were ever entrepreneurs. Nobody in my family ever made money or nobody's ever built businesses. Nobody ever graduated college or anything like that. So I'm just supposed to do, and this is what I thought about in high school, I'm just supposed to do whatever my parents did. If they worked at the water company, I'm supposed to work at the water company. If my mom worked in technology, I guess I'm supposed to work as a fab technician in technology. I just thought like that's how it was, that my last name was Resendez. It wasn't Trump. So I was like, oh, I thought your last name has to be Trump in order to do what Trump does or anything. I like literally thought that way. I thought it was genetics and something in family lines until I read the book Think and Grow Rich and realized like, dang, there's some people that grew up in way worse situations than I grew up in. And they started from nothing and built things like, I mean, the Ford car, and they built everything that we use even today. Like, man, there's all these stories of people who have done this throughout history. And it all comes down to the way that we think and the things that we do every single day, the things, the affirmations that we tell ourselves every single day, the way that we talk to ourselves every day. Like, it literally is just that simple. But it's always the simple things that are the hardest things because they're so simple to do, but they're also simple not to do. And it's just the little simple things that success and talking about success and the difference between success and failure is so small, it's almost too scary to talk about because it's just a small little difference in the way that we talk to ourselves and the way that we do the simple things and being able to do the simple things consistently from there too. So yeah, that's some of the ways to get out of the scarcity mindset right there.
Yeah. I know a lot of you guys are doing pay-per call. A lot of you guys have call centers. We got AI in the house. We got Neil Billick. He's the founder and the CEO of All Rise AI. They're doing big things. I'm a user of his service.
We are coming in immediately 4Xing contact rates for clients. What we found in my BPO when I ran it and deployed the AI was we had 30-second wait times before the deployment between connections. And my guys were making about 500 connections a day. Times 30 seconds, we were wasting 250 minutes a day per head in a call center.
That's 4 hours. That's half
4 hours,
day. Yeah.
half their day, or half their wages being spent on them waiting for a call.
Yeah.
The reason your wait time's high is when you're calling out, you have an abandon rate you have to stay under of 3% that's programmed in your dialer.
If the AI is weeding that out, and I think that's the benefit, it's collapsing time frames, it's helping your top producers produce, which is what you want them to do.
People are afraid AI is going to replace call center agents, and it may, but right now, use it to maximize your human resource. So leveraging it for the tools it can be to do exactly what you're saying. Let the humans do what they can do best. Let the AI get cursed out.
Yeah. You talked about, I love that book, Think and Grow Rich. As you were talking, it reminded me when I first got into sales, when I was a bond broker, I read every freaking sales book, man. I still remember their names. And God, I would be so motivated because I felt like this was my Bible. This was going to teach me how to freaking sell. I would use certain techniques and they worked. I'm like, holy crap, this shit works. Right. And all I had to do is go to Barnes and Noble, spend $10, $20 for this book. It was like better than college, right?
100%.
So I think one way to become successful is really proximity is what it comes down to. And I know you're a firm believer of it. You live in Silicon Valley, right? Where there's a ton of proximity. I don't know how much proximity there is in our industry, but at the end of the day, it's all connected because if you're around that, you're gonna just lift up along with that too.
100%.
So let's talk about I'm trying to intertwine into being in Silicon Valley, right? How you think that's helped you out. And proximity, because I think it's all connected at the end of the day. Because when your scarcity mindset, if you're around people that are broke, not doing well in life, fucking shit up, you're going to be doing the same stuff more than likely.
That's
but
right.
If you get out of that and you go in an area where people are successful and doing great stuff, I mean, more than likely you're going to be part of that too. You're going to rise with them, right? So
100%.
Let's talk about all that.
Yeah, my one of the things that changed my mindset recently over the past couple of years, we were over at a Golden State Warriors game.
Yeah,
so
I'm glad you're talking about this.
Golden State Warriors, that's my team right there. And I've been a Golden State Warriors fan before Steph Curry. I'm a Bay Area fan, Oakland A's fan too.
Wow.
I love Oakland A's baseball. I mean, we talk about the Dodgers and everything. Oakland A's haven't been well for a little while too, and they're going through some challenges right now with the move and the whole deal. But I could talk about the Golden State Warriors, but went to the Golden State Warriors game about a couple years ago. And I knew proximity is power and associations are big. So one of the things that my wife and I did, we're like, you know what? I always see the owners walking around all the time. And the owner's wife, she's always wearing these sparkly things all the time. And I could see her. We're always analyzing what the owners are doing because I'm more interested in what the owners of the Warriors are doing than what Steph Curry is doing. Because Steph Curry is on the owner of the Warriors payroll. I'd rather be the owner of the Warriors rather than Steph Curry, because who's writing Steph Curry's check and who could tell Steph Curry like, hey, sorry, we're letting you go. I'd rather be the owner of the Warriors and the guy who owns the whole entire building, but who gets more attention is Steph Curry instead. So my wife and I always look at like, how do we become the owner of the arena, the owner of the actual team that we're watching, rather than going and being next to the players. So like, I don't want to sit next to the players. I want to sit next to the owner. So I looked up and I called my rep over at the Golden State Warriors, like, how do you get me to sit next to the owner? So I was like, oh, actually, we got tickets that are coming up here in this like upcoming game that's upcoming. I was like, all right, awesome. Get us those tickets. So we sit next to the Warriors, but like I prepared my wife. I was like, oh, you know how the wife, like over there, the owner of the Warriors wife, like always wears all the sparkly stuff. Go and find the most sparkly boots you could find, like the most outrageous outfit you could find. I guarantee you're going to like catch her attention. She's like, yeah, I want her as like a mentor. That's someone I want to get to know. That's someone who I want to become friends with and associate with, because we always talk about associations or everything. Yeah. So like, all right. So she gets this crazy outfit and everything where she's going to stick out. So we get these seats that are right next to the owners and everything. And of course, the owner's wife comes out and says like, oh, hey, who are you? Like, oh my goodness, I love your boots and the whole deal. And like tells her all about her outfit, and they're like exchanging and having fun the whole entire deal. And then we look to the left of us and we're like, dang, we're looking, and the guys to the left of us were awesome. The guy, he was like in a hoodie, and like, I think he was wearing Birkenstocks or something like that. But like, he looked like he was just straight off of the street or something. Yeah. And he goes and introduces himself, and I was like, oh, great to meet you. He says first name, last name, though. So now I learned from that. Okay, every time I introduce myself, I say first name, last name, because I was like, man, he must be somebody. Because now I introduce myself, oh, Ruben Resendez, instead of majority of people say, hey, nice to meet you, Ruben. Great to meet you. But then when you say, oh, hey, Ruben Resendez,
you stand out a little bit better.
Like,
yeah,
oh,
for real.
He must be somebody. So when I went home from that Warriors game, I looked this guy up. And this guy is worth over $8 billion. That was sitting to the left of us. And we're the whole entire game, we're over here like rubbing elbows and like, oh, did you see that play? I just thought he was a regular guy and everything. So I'm like, okay, let me think about it. So to the left of us are billionaires. To the right of us are billionaires. Like, we're the only ones not billionaires. And all these guys are in venture capital. Like, this is cool building a business and everything like that. But I think we need to be in venture capital. We need to be the ones investing into businesses. Like, I love building a business and it's fun and it's awesome. But that's where my mind shifted of like, there's a whole nother level of people that are actually funding these businesses. I need to get into the funding of businesses now and the acquisition of businesses instead. And that changed my whole entire mindset a couple of years ago. I was like, okay, now it's totally different.
Off of that basketball game.
Off of that one basketball game right there. And now every time we go to the Warriors game, we have to sit there. And now my wife's got the owner's wife's number. And we're talking about nonprofits and how do we get involved in the nonprofits and the whole entire deal. And it's awesome. We met a couple of the other owners of the Warriors and everything too. And they're super great friends. Now that the season's up, they're like, oh, hey, Ruben, Julie, great to see you guys again. How was the off season? Almost like we're players there that are there in the game. So now we're almost feel obligated to go to every single Golden State Warriors game too. But that's a lot of games to go to all the time. But that's like one of the proximity is power right there of like, man, everybody's a billionaire except me. Like, I need to get after it. Like, I need to go and do something even greater. And just being around other friends too that are building amazing things. I've got this one friend, he's got his own crypto token and everything. And I was like, man, I've known you for like the past year. I don't even know what you did or anything. He's like, yeah, we got our own token. I was like, man, this is like the 17th biggest token in the whole entire crypto exchange that he runs. I was like, man, that's wild what you guys, I know you're always flying to Dubai and Singapore and all these other places, Tokyo and everything else too, but I never even asked you what the heck that you do. And he was like, yeah, I do this and do that. I was like, man, just the abundance mindset that people have of like looking to the next level of creating something much larger than, I was like, man, why am I messing around with this little lead gen thing? Like, this is cool and stuff too, but like, we got to go even bigger and build something way bigger than what we're building right now that's affecting the world in a major way. So it's the proximity, in Silicon Valley is amazing too. The best thing too is like, it's like the second wealthiest place in all of America. But you go there, you never even know if you're sitting next to a multi-billionaire or not, because they don't look like it. They're not driving the Urus. They're not driving the Rolls Royce. They're not over here like flashing it. They're not wearing the watches or the jewelry or anything like that. You could be sitting next to a multi-billionaire and he looks like he's a bum off the street in Silicon Valley. You never know it. You never know it. That's the thing I love the most about Silicon Valley.
Yeah, and I remember you posted that, I think on one of the socials, Facebook or Instagram, and when I read that whole thing, I was like, wow, that's amazing, because I'm such a believer in that. You got to be in the right places, right? And proximity is so big, and the fact that made you see things. I got to step my game up is what you thought, right? And I feel the same way. And going back to what you're saying, listen, lead gen is great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, lead gen, I feel like I'll always be involved in some capacity.
Yep.
I feel like you will be, because lead gen,
I love it.
There's always it's always. But it's almost part of evolution. We evolve.
That's right.
There's always a new evolution, a new thing going on in the economy, and you could jump on that and make some good money. But what do you do next level? How do you get deeper within that? And what you're talking about is what you do. And that's kind of what I'm doing with Solar. And I got this battery play, which is like freaking crazy.
Yeah.
And man, and that came from Legion. I spoke in Barcelona, an affiliate world. And then the next day, these heavy hitters come to my booth, talking about Legion, and all of a sudden now I have a deal with them, with some crazy freaking deal with this publicly traded company. The stock tripled the other day. I have shares of it. Went from like 1, actually went to 4, came back in, but like, it's just crazy. And I'm doing the numbers in my head, like, man, this is a great deal. All we got to do is do this and do that, and then boom, it's all math at the end of the day. And how, who, not how, right?
That's it.
How do you get there, and who will help you get there? Which I know, going back to self-development, you're a big believer in that kind of mindset too. And we've read Dan Sullivan's books.
Yep.
I mean, we could talk all day about this stuff.
Seriously.
It's fucking crazy, but it's just nuts is what it comes down to.
And like you said about selling too, because I grew up an introvert. I still consider myself very introverted, where like literally my wife gets a little frustrated because she was like,
she's very extrovert.
She's the life of the party. She loves to be around people. She'll talk. She makes friends so easy. I was telling her the other day, it's like, you make friends so easy. And I'm over here like a little bit more introverted, a little bit more reserved. And I could stay in my office all day long. Like, keep me in my office with my laptop all day long, and I'll be good. But she's like, I got to get out of the house. I got to go somewhere. Like, I got to do something and everything. She likes to be out and doing that. Yeah. But me growing up introverted, selling didn't come natural to me. Talking didn't become natural to me. Just like you, I had to read a whole bunch of books and personal development books, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Zig Ziglar, and who are the other? Tom Hopkins.
Oh, that was one. Bible. That's the first one I read. Yeah, that's
the one I listened to every single day in my car for about 5 years straight. Because in the beginning, when I was selling mortgages, I thought like, man, I'm over here. I'm way smarter than many of my friends are doing way better than me.
Nothing to do with smarts.
Like, and I'm going to go and impress the socks off of these people to talk about their mortgage and all the details behind the interest rates and how it works and how it's a great deal for them and all that stuff. It's like, no, Tom Hopkins said the person that asks the most questions always wins. Yep. So like, I'm over here speaking to them and presenting to them, but I never even asked them one question.
Telling versus selling, yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Controlling the conversation.
100%, 100%. So that's why I was like, okay, I am just going to go and ask them a ton of questions now. And now that's like my strategy in every conversation that I go into. And it's not even a selling strategy. It's like, I'm like intrinsically intrigued by people, and I love to ask them questions all the time. That's why it's weird that you're asking me questions, because majority of the time I'm always like, if I can just keep asking them questions, I never even have to talk about myself.
It becomes natural.
It does.
Tom Hopkins, I learned the tie down.
Yeah.
And bro, when I first learned that, I was a tie down machine. I don't think I am as much as I used to be, but bro, I would do that with my family. At one point, my daughter was using a lot of tie downs.
Wouldn't you? Couldn't you?
Doesn't that sound fair? Okay's a tie down.
Doesn't that sound fair?
We had to set one of my call centers I ran. The tie down was to close okay, because we added to their bill, and it was like a legit product, no bullshit product, home warranty product. That okay close all day long. You hear okay. And some people are like, oh, what did I just agree to? Like, okay, because we're taught. It's like a knee jerk reaction. Okay.
That's right.
And I learned that from a really phenomenal stockbroker in 2012 or 2011. I saw it on his scripts, and at first I thought it was weak. I'm like, who the fuck's gonna ask to say okay to like $500,000 worth of stock or whatever? But I heard him say it, and it worked, and I did it, and it worked. I'm holy shit, this shit works. You know, it's like,
right?
Doesn't it sound cool? When you're first reading those books, it seems corny as shit, right?
Oh, 100%.
I'm not gonna fucking say this shit.
Yeah, right.
But bro, you say it, and like, holy fuck, it works.
Yeah. And then once you see it works, because at first it's a little bit robotic, because doing anything new, it's always very robotic in the very beginning. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it starts becoming natural after you do it over and over and you see results from it. That's exactly
all
it.
All it is that first time. And when I was a bond broker, they said we would line up a call. They called it the show. And we were selling like 5% municipal bonds, 5% tax free. So then we'd call him, hey Joe, I talked to you last week. I got the bond I was looking for. I got it. If you do me a favor, grab a pen and paper. I'll wait here. You would have told people to grab a pen and paper. Meanwhile, these are like multi-millionaires.
Yeah,
I'm 22 years old, broke as
and you're
fuck.
telling them what to do.
Grab a pen and paper. I'm like, they're gonna go tell me to go fuck myself, man.
Right.
But first time I did that, they're like, oh, okay, I'll be back. They went and grabbed the pen and paper, and I closed that guy for 10 grand.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this shit works. And I was a believer. I'm like, I don't tell me what to say. I'll fucking say it. I don't care how corny this sounds. I'll keep saying this shit because it works, man.
Right. And that's what I loved about the whole entire internet marketing space, because it's the same exact thing that you learn in the sales books, but it's all digital instead. So like the whole entire tie down, the go and get a pen and a paper, that's the call to action button right there. Yeah. Now it's a click here. You got to tell people to do exactly what you want them to do. You want them to click here, fill out your info here. But initially you kind of think like, oh, if I just put that on the website, they're going to know what to do. Like, no, even the multi-billionaires need to be told what to do to guide them in the right direction.
It's so funny, but it's going back to those books. I mean, I have a book called Telephone Selling in the 80s. This book is fantastic. Like dude, I should have my team read this book. There are so many great techniques. It doesn't matter if you're in the 80s it's all Napoleon Hill. We wrote that book, what, 1920?
Right.
It's still so relevant to this day. I mean, that's gonna be read for thousands of millions of years. Who knows? But
classic.
It's out. The bottom line is it's out there. If you really have the desire to get better, watch these podcasts. There's so many other podcasts out there. And also, you said this too. I think you said this about your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed you started cleaning that up because you had a lot of people that get rid of that. Now all you're getting is inspiration rather than all this. Like, can you talk about that too?
Yeah, because initially, before I forget too, because talking about Tom Hopkins and bring me back to what we're going to talk about right now too. But talking about Tom Hopkins, even the terms that he talks about on what to use and the things that you say and how you say them. So instead of saying sign here, it's more of, oh, just go ahead and autograph right here. It means the same thing, but it sounds so different of like, people want to give you their autograph. They don't want to sign anything, but people want to give you their autograph. And it's little differences like that. And I try to teach my team that too, of like the terms that you use. Like, don't use the word issue. Use the word challenge instead. They're like, that sounds stupid. I was like, hey, you want to get results or you don't want to get results? Like, I'm going to still harp on you every time you say that I word and say use challenge instead, because challenge sounds like you could overcome something. Issue sounds like you got to go to therapy and it's something you're never going to get rid of.
No one likes issues.
It's a negative connotation. Yeah, exactly it. So that's where it's like a little difference in changing a wording of makes a world of a difference right there.
Yeah.
So, but the other point that we're going to talk about, right? Well,
the social media,
you
cleansed.
Stuff.
Yeah, your who was following or you were following.
Yeah, so initially when I got involved in the internet marketing space back in 2008, that's when I started a Facebook feed, because that's all there was at that time. They had a Facebook feed. So I started a new one for the company I was working for, and I added on all these affiliates that were there on Facebook. So I had nothing but affiliates in that feed. And then I had my personal one that I was using. So I had two different accounts. That personal one had a whole bunch of old high school friends and all the people that I did stupid stuff with, the people that I did drugs with, people I drank with, the people I dropped out of college with. All the stupid stuff that I did were on that feed. So after time and just being obsessed with this industry, I would only go to that Facebook feed that had all the internet marketing people. And all the internet marketing people were posting awesome stuff that they were doing, the stats that they were doing, like all of the positive messages that they're talking about, the new books that they're reading. They're reading books like Traction and talking about the EOS system and everything else too. I'm like, what is all this stuff? So it got me so intrigued. I would always look at that feed. And then maybe about like 3 years later, I go back to this personal feed. It's like, oh, I forgot that I had this Facebook feed over here. And I open it up. It's like GoFundMe accounts and all this negativity and criticism about politics and like all these politicians that are bad. I was like, man, I already feel negative and dirty already just looking at this personal feed I used to have. And like, man, those are all friends that I used to hang around. And that was the stuff that was feeding me the whole entire time. So when I was getting fed by my internet marketing friends, like it was always positive of like what we're doing next. What's the next step? Here's what I'm doing. Here's all the other stuff that I'm doing. Cool. Like I just bought this new car, like just inspiration nonstop. So I said, I want that to even be part of my feed. Associations are everything. So even the people that we follow on social media make the world of a difference, because whether you want to admit it or not, we're scrolling through social media at some point through the day. So when we scroll through social media, we're going to want to see positive thoughts or positive posts that are on there that inspire us to go to the next level. We don't want to see negative stuff that it's like always like a downer of like, oh, my mom just got sick, like all this stuff. Like we all deal with challenges, but if I'm going to scroll on my feed for 5 or 10 minutes, I want to see something that's going to inspire me to say like, dang, all right, I got to get up and get after it and do that. Yeah. So I think makes a world of a difference. Associations are everything, even with social media too.
Yeah, it's all subconscious. It goes to your subconscious.
That's
and
it.
You watch that before you go to bed. Boom, you're going to be dreaming about that. You're going to be thinking about it. You wake up feeling different. It's like, positive or negatively, so it really is important.
And I grew up with that actually. So that's another thing that I had to become conscious of, that, every night before my parents would go to sleep, they actually still do it even to this day. They would watch the news right before they go to sleep. Wow. Yeah. Even my grandparents, and it's just went through the family lines, and so many people do. They watch the news right before they go to sleep. And guess what's on the news before you go to sleep? Killings, murders, like all the bad stuff, all the politics that are going bad, and everybody who's talking about each other. There's nothing good that's on there. Then you go to sleep, and subconsciously the murders and the rapes and the killings and everything else are all going through your mind. And I was thinking about that, of like, at one point I was thinking like, why don't I take big risk? And I went back to when I was growing up, my mom would always say every time before I left the house, be careful, be careful. Yeah. 100%. Because she's a loving mother. She wants to make sure I stay safe and such too. But in her mind, what was going on outside that door was everything she was seeing on that news. And so she was scared of what's going on out that door. So it would always ring in my head, be careful, be careful. So when I started thinking, why don't I take big risk? Like, it was my mom saying like, be careful. And I got that ringing in my head of be careful. So until you become conscious of the things that are holding you back, you'll never overcome them. Yeah. So what else can we overcome? And what else can we uncover that's keeping us back from going to the next level? There's various different aspects that how we grew up and how we're a culture that we got to reverse engineer that and say, okay, that all happened for me so I could get much better, and spread the news that like, all right, there's nothing to be scared of outside that door. And I shouldn't be watching the news before I go to sleep. And whatever I put inside my brain before I go to sleep is going to make the world of a difference in the next day, because subconsciously I'm thinking about that. My brain's going, even though my eyes are asleep, my brain's still running, and it's thinking about the last thing that I thought about right before I went to sleep. So now before I go to sleep, I write down all my goals specifically every single day, 7 days a week. I write down, what's my 5-year plan? What's my 3-year plan? What's my 2-year plan? What's my 1-year plan? And I say my affirmations, and I write my affirmations, and I read them, and I look over my vision board and all that good stuff to make sure if I'm going to sleep, though, that's the last thought that's going through my mind. So I wake up and I'm like, okay, motivated for the day. I know exactly what I got to do. Then I go and write them again as soon as I wake up too, because my subconscious is still going. Yep. Let me write my goals down too again. But that's the simple things that most people aren't willing to do. So people always want to be successful and everything. Why don't you just do the simple things? Yeah. Write down your goals right before you go to sleep. And as soon as you wake up, write down your goals again. I guarantee majority, 99% of people won't do that for 3 to 5 years straight until they see their goals become a reality.
And that's you collapse timeframes. You expedite, man. That what you said is amazing, because I my routine was sick like that. I would meditate at night, meditate in the morning, right? And you get man, you fall once you fall off, man. It's hard to get back on that routine. I have a pretty good routine. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad you mentioned your routine. I was going to ask you that because I think that there's a lot of knowledge in there and wisdom in that. So anyway, you got me motivated. I'm getting back on it, man. But what I would do is I got this from The Gap and the Gain. You read that book, Dan Sullivan?
That's a good one.
So he talks about. Before you go to bed, what are 3 things you'd like to see happen the next day, right? And then the next morning you think about it again, and you that becomes the 3 things you think about, right? And man, when I was on that, when I was meditating, I was doing that, man, I was unstoppable, right? And things happen, this, and then you fall off it. But as you were talking, like, fuck, I gotta get back on that, man. Right. That's what I love about this stuff. You talk to guys like this, they're doing it, making shit happen. It's simple, and it didn't even take a long time. I would spend it was like at nighttime. Depending on how long I meditated for, like a 10 or 20 minute thing. But I'll do that at nighttime. I'd do it in the morning. I'd wake up before my kids woke up. And that becomes another thing is that the kids, like I have a 1-year-old kid, and I love him, but he wakes up, but there can't be an excuse. You got to wake up before them. So what I started doing was like, he'd wake up at 7:30. I got to get up by 6:15, 6:30. I got to beat his ass. You know?
got to beat him.
That way I can get my shit in, man. But there's always ways to do it, man. But what happens is, one day will throw you off. You
That's
you
right.
get home late, then you wake up and then it messes you up. You can't even get thrown off. I know people, they won't let one day throw. If that means you got to sleep only 1 or 2 hours, you do that.
That's
Or
right.
you fall off, get back right on, man. So I'm glad you said that, because now you got me motivated, man. I'll text you tomorrow.
I'm going to keep you accountable now.
Hold me accountable, man.
That's the power of friends right there.
Yeah.
The power of associations, that they'll keep you accountable. And especially the things that I'll say, I'll have friends that will keep me accountable too. And then the next morning of like, hey, I just did this and I wrote down my goals for today because I heard you say that on a podcast. I'm like, dang. Every once in a while, I'm like, oh, I need to write down those goals again in the morning if I fall off. Because like, especially with as much as we travel, as much as we work, sometimes we'll use that as an excuse to say like, dang, I only slept 4 hours last night.
Yeah.
I need those like 5 or 10 minutes that I would do that. But I was like, oh, that's 5 or 10 minutes. Let me just get to it. Like no excuses. Like I committed to doing it. So even though I don't feel like it, I committed to doing it. And that's when the biggest breakthroughs come through. The times when you don't feel like doing it, but then you commit to doing it. That's when the huge breakthroughs come through. Because majority of the time, I don't feel like doing a good amount of stuff. I don't feel like going to the gym every single morning. I don't feel like going and writing my goals every single morning and every single night, but I committed to doing it. My goals are a lot bigger to make a realization, especially when you have a family. When your family is on the line, your family's depending on you, and your family's depending on you to create those goals and create that vision for the household. Oh my goodness. That takes you like, that's like putting steroids into you. All right, I could sleep maybe 2 hours every night, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that they prosper. Yeah.
Wow, that powerful stuff. And again, it comes down to associations where you're talking about. You associate people with this mindset, then you adopt that mindset. You feel like you're talking like this. I'm feeling like a jerk for that. I'm like, why did I fall off? I'm trying to think. I don't even know why I fell off. Fuck it. I fell off. I'm getting back on. I don't care. And then your kids see that, and then they become better people.
That's true.
Because they're going to go through their challenges, right? So then they learn through you. So this is great. I needed this, man.
Well, you know why I was thinking about this on the way in here. You know what makes you so successful? And the whole entire time I've known you for how many years now? 7, 8 years?
6, 7 years, 8 years.
6, 7, 8 years. Yeah. That you've always been so humble that you always ask questions, and you're doing freaking awesome. You're doing amazing, but you always ask questions to everybody. Like you stay so humble of like always asking questions all the time. You never like, oh, hey, I'm David. I'm the host of the LFG show. Like you got to come to me or anything like that. Like you're never like that. Never. Like you're always learning from everybody. And I think that's what makes you so successful, and you'll continue to be successful because of that.
I appreciate that. But, and again, I think that's, you can't ever stop learning. There's always, I mean, even our industry, lead gen, you think you nailed something, all of a sudden something happens.
That's right.
Facebook changes the freaking algorithm, or there's a new platform, TikTok comes, or YouTube does this or that. You got to be always ahead of the curve. And I think it comes down to, it all starts in the mind. You got to be 100%. Willing to be ready for that. And you got to be humble. You got to take care of your health as well, because you're not freaking take care of your health. You're not going to be around, if people are successful, people make a lot of money on paper, and then freaking die of a heart attack because they didn't take care of their health at 35, 40 years. It's crazy when you hear that stuff. So I want to have a long run, man. I want to go past 100, and I can't get there on my own. I got to learn from people like you, people more successful than me. Like you said, having that proximity, being around these billionaires. What are they doing? What kind of impact are they making in the world? So no, I appreciate you saying that. That's because. Right. And I really enjoy it too. And I think you do too. It's fun when you learn from someone new and you implement their strategy. We've had Dr. D, and you're big into your health too. We've worked out. We've been in Vegas, not knowing we're going to see each other, and then boom, we see each other in the gym working out. Yeah, you got to take care of your health, right? But he's a big believer, and he thinks he's going to make it past 120, 150. I bet you he will. He's so committed to it.
That's right.
But the point is, you got to be committed, and that builds discipline, is what it comes down to. And I think it becomes like a muscle. That inquisitive nature, always wanting to learn. And you'll attract people like that are like that. I think that's why you and I get along as well as we do, right. Because we know we're going to learn from each other. It's going to be fun. Yep. It's not negative stuff. We're not talking shit about anybody. I don't think I've heard you talk anything negative about one person in my life, right? And when I think about it, there's not a lot of people in my life that are like that either. I don't like to be around people like that. But birds of feather flock together. You become who you associate with at the end.
That's
of
right.
So,
100%. 100%. I think you said something big too, because that's my goal, is to live 120 years. Yeah. That's my goal right there. And I think what keeps us grounded, what's helped me build a mid 8-figure business, has been my core values. Once I got my core values in place, my personal core values in place, that made the world of a difference. That's when I started seeing my business start to take off after that. And my core values are what I call the 5 F's: faith, family, finances, fitness, and fun. And I practice those every single day in that order, in that priority. So as long as my faith is in line, like my spirituality, like I know that I'm protected, I could take big risks because I know there's always a blessing on the other side of every adversity that I hit. That faith is a big part of my whole entire living and my whole entire being. And that faith has saved me in so many various different aspects too. When it comes to various different aspects, you've probably realized this being in lead gen, when you get a TCPA case that hits you or something like that, like talk about like praying to God. My goodness, like some class action lawsuits that hit you, talk about praying to God of like miracles of overcoming some of these things in some of these different ways. That faith kicks in very quickly like that. But that faith is great too. But that family aspect of that home being one of my peaceful areas, my wife is really good at this, is making sure that our home is a very peaceful place for me to come home to after work. Because after being on the battlefield and handling so many team members with their emotions, and I'm like a full-time therapist many times too with many of our team members as well, dealing with so many different aspects, clients and all partners, the whole entire deal. That family life at home, with that taken care of, I could handle anything. Like I could come home into peace and I could lay my head down. I could say tomorrow I can fight another day because I'm rejuvenated from that. So that's where the faith, family, finances are a big thing, because it's great to make money with business, but you got to also multiply that money too. You got to put that money to work. You can't just leave it stagnant either. So finances are a big deal, making sure finances are a priority, making sure that you're multiplying your wealth that comes in, going and making investments and having those streams of income coming in. Because like we talked about, there's focus and going deep into one area. But as you're deep in that one area and success in that one area, you got to go and have that blanket that's going to be covering your family of like, I'm thinking about living trust and thinking about generations upon generations to say, hey, remember Grandpa Resendez, great Grandpa Resendez, great Grandpa Resendez? Like there's going to be kids talking about me when I'm long and gone, generations upon generations, because I'm thinking that finances are a big priority, and wealth and preserving that wealth and making sure that generations upon generations of Resendez families are taken care of along the way too. So it's faith, family, finances. Fitness is a big one, because I can't show up in the way that I show up every single day if I don't go to the gym in the morning. And fitness became a big one because everybody in my family, like you look at me today and you think like everybody in my family probably looks like this. Everybody on my family, on both sides of my family, my mom and dad's side of the family, are all obese. All of them. All of them have diabetes. I even had one aunt who was over 500 pounds that died because of obesity. And so many of my family members were denying it and saying, no, it was because she had this little disease thing. And I was like, no, she's been obese for so long. She hasn't even been able to get out of that bed in like the past year and a half. So like, it's just extremes like that I think about, but there's always one person in the family that stops generation lines forever. And that one person is going to be me. So that's why I take fitness very seriously every single day. And then as you're going through all that, you got to have some fun along the way. This is fun. Doing this is fun for me. So you got to have some fun along the way. So it's always faith, family, finances, fitness, and fun. And I practice those every single day in that order. And that keeps me grounded. And that keeps me with a smile on my face every single day.
I love it. That's great. 5 F's. You can remember that easily. And everyone's got to have their values. We all have our values, whether we say it or not. Do you actually know what your values are as a person? I think that you shine a light on that. That's beautiful.
That's right.
Man, we could talk for days here, man. The one of the last questions I want to ask you is, obviously you're big into self-development, right? Making yourself a better person. How much do you think you invested? How much have you invested in yourself with these courses? Or I don't know if you want to include the events. Like, what's the grand total you think? If maybe you don't even know, but if you could estimate.
Yeah, if I were to estimate it over the past 12 months, I like how you said that too, because we're talking about Tom Hopkins and the words that we use. And he talks about that. He's like, oh, I won't say this is how much it cost. He says, oh, this is the investment. Right. So you know that there's going to be a return, because there's a return on an investment. There's not a return on something that's costing something. That's just an expense, a return on an investment. But I would say I spend probably in the past 12 months, probably about $1.2 million in just personal development, being at different masterminds, making sure I get the right mentorship. I've got mentorship from people that aren't out there saying that they mentor people. But if I want to go and build a $1 billion business, then I need to go and find a $1 billion mentor. All I have to do, it's very easy. I got to find somebody who's built a $1 billion business and do exactly as they have done. So I want to get around somebody who's built a $1 billion business and say, teach me exactly how to do it. If I could have one hour call with you once a month, and I could just drill you with tons of questions on what you did in every single scenario that I'm in right now, then I'll get to the $1 billion that you've gotten to. So I always believe in, it's okay to be a copycat, as long as you copy the right cat. So I'm always looking for the right cat. So much of the personal development investment has been in those mentors where it's like, okay, I need to shell out some kind of cash so I have some skin in the game. So that way I take what they're going to say seriously, because a lot of times I don't want to charge people. When entrepreneurs and early entrepreneurs come to me and they're like, I want some advice, Ruben, can I get you to like do a sit down lunch with me like once a month? And in the beginning, I would do so much of that all the time because I want to give to so many different people. Like I have a big giving heart where I want to give, and I don't want to see them go through the same challenges I went through. So I want to do that, take them out to lunch. Sure, you could have 2 hours of my time and all that. But what I found doing that and doing it for free, I would even pay for the lunch too. Because I was like, I don't want you to pay for the lunch. Like, I know you're just starting out and all that stuff. I don't want you to pay for the lunch. I would do it for free. But what I realized is that they wouldn't implement any of the stuff that I said. And I poured my heart into all of that. And I was like, why don't they implement it? It's because they never had skin in the game. So they actually have to fork out some investment to have some kind of skin in the game to take my words actually seriously. And I found the same exact thing with mentors I've reached out to. I've got to fork out an investment. So what they say, I take super seriously, and I actually execute on everything that they said, because much of the things that they say are very simple. But if I don't take it seriously, it's very simple not to do as well. So if I have skin in the game, then I'm actually going to execute on everything that they say. So yeah, it's been probably the past 12 months about like 1.2 million in just self-improvement. Yeah,
that's incredible. And you're obviously getting great value out of it. It falls in line with your 5Fs. You're having fun doing it, I imagine. So that's amazing to hear. And I love hearing that, because there's a lot of good, especially in this day and age. It's not like back in 2008, 2010, like when you first started, when I was getting into this stuff, it was out there, but now it's like really in your face. And I think now there's so much of it in your face. How do you know which one's the best one? You know, what it comes down to.
And that's the thing that I learned early on too, because initially, like, I just wanted to reach out to mentors that are building a business as big as the business that I want to build. And initially I would get around some of those mentors, and I'd say like, okay, they're wealthy, they're doing pretty well, but their life is in shambles. They've been divorced 3 or 4 or 5 times. They've also have their kids that don't even want to be around them. And like their family life is horrible. Their wives don't even want to be around them or anything like that. I'm like, that's not the life that I want. Like, I want it all. I want to have a great family life. I want to have a great marriage. I want to have a great business. I want to have great wealth. I want to have great kids. And I want to find a mentor that has all of that. And there's mentors that are out there. So I think it comes down to the core values. Like, great, you could get a mentor that's doing well. It's got a big Instagram following and all that different stuff too. But how's their family life? How's their kids' life? How are they as a husband? How are they as a person? What are their core values? I find that more valuable than whatever that they've done in business, because that is going to rub off on you. And the more time I spend around mentors, if they don't have their family life in order, I find that starts seeping into my own family life too. So I got to make sure they have their family life in order, because I want to have a great family too.
I love that you touch upon that, because you're right. There's so many people that you see it all the time. I think baller busters on Instagram. That's what they go deep, man. They go hard in terms of exposing some of those guys. But nowadays it's so easy to fall into one of these where they'll charge you $5 to like 50 grand on something like that, and then you're selling hope at the end of the day, right? You're hoping for some sort of results, but you could get caught up in this flashiness or whatever it is. But how is their family? How's everything else going? Because at the end of the day, you become like who you associate with.
100%.
Like you said before. So I thought that was good. So if there was maybe one or two, I don't know if we want to call it courses, masterminds, or events that you'd recommend to the audience, which are those?
You know which one is really good that I actually got a lot of value out of was Gabe Ansel's affiliate mastermind.
Okay, he's got one coming up in Austin, I think.
He's got one coming up in Austin. I'm going to be there at that one too. Nice. I actually got a good amount of value from that, even though it was talking a lot about media buying. And we've got like 8 media buyers that buy media. And once in a while, I'll dabble into the media stuff myself still from there. But I got so much value about creativity and building a business and the way that other businesses are organized. I was like, oh, I got to take that back and take that back into my organization too. That was a great one too.
Nice.
The other one that makes a world of a difference has been Cardone Ventures. My friend Brandon Dawson has this whole entire course. That's all they do, actually. They got finance essentials. They have leadership essentials. They have operations essentials, where they talk about all the nuances of building a business, of creating employment maturity models, creating salaries for employees, creating benefits, how to put together a whole entire organization. And they built a $250 million company just from all these courses. And they basically say, here's what we do in our organization, and here's what's worked, and here's how you could do it too. So his masterminds and his courses are freaking awesome. They're so good. Even though they're they're up there in price, but they're really worth it. They're really beneficial.
Yeah, and the networking must be insane. I think
yeah.
I know one of the 10, maybe one of the first ones you ever went to, I think you got the best package. You got to meet them all, right? And then like now it sounds like you're doing a lot more of them, and that's part of the proximity and
That's it.
value, right? You sort of value, so you kept coming, and one thing leads to another.
Yeah, and one of my goals, and my wife and I, every time we go to an event, we always have a goal. We say we don't want to be just the consumer at the event. We want to actually meet the person who's putting on this event. We want, just like how we go to the Warriors game, we want to meet the owner of the Warriors. Like, we don't want to meet the player that's a part of the Warriors. Like, we want to meet the owner of the Warriors. I want to meet the person who's putting on this whole entire event. I want to meet the organizer who is organizing this whole entire thing. So same exact thing. We go to the 10X events. I want to meet Brandon Dawson. He's the one who is putting on this whole entire thing. So I go with an intention. Every event that I go to, it's always with an intention. And that intention, when I go to one of those 10X events, like, I want to meet the organizer. I want to meet Brandon Dawson. I want to become friends with them too. So I purposefully sit next to him, say, hey, I've got like 5 or 6 questions I'm going to ask you. And I already come equipped with those questions. So there's mentors I want to be around, and I already have questions lined up. Even mentors I haven't met yet, I already have 10 questions that I'm going to ask them, because one day I'm going to meet them, and I want to be prepared to ask them those 10 questions.
That's amazing. That you set your attention and you prepare for it. And that's manifestation at the end of the day.
100%.
You want to meet this person, and then one day I'm going to meet them, and you already prepare for it. And that increases it's that vibration, man.
That's right.
That frequency. That's incredible.
Yeah, the frequency is huge right there. It's huge. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
This is just amazing. So many freaking great things. The last question I want to ask is, what's the future for Ruben Resendez? Like, what do you have visioned? And what do you have envisioned is what it comes out of the next couple, 2, 3, 5 years?
Well, there's short term and then there's long term. Yeah. So I'll start with the short term. So the short term is we're looking for leaders to go and start new verticals. So right now we're looking for leaders that already have contacts in the auto insurance vertical, that already have contacts in the Medicare vertical, that already have contacts in the life insurance vertical, that already have contacts in the just in the insurance vertical in general, also in the consumer finance vertical. And it's always who, not how. So instead of me figuring out how to build these verticals, there's always a who that's out there. So I'm looking to partner up and create different entities with those people who have those contacts. And it might be an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur that is working for a business right now. And they're like, oh, it's a little risky for me to go and start a business. And I don't know where I would get the resources. I don't know where I would get the funding. I don't even know where to start, but I've got all these contacts and I've got all these other resources that if I were to get into somebody's platform, then I would be able to really take off and build something great that would leave a legacy for my family and for everybody else all around me. That's the person that I'm looking for that would be able to help me start some of these verticals and start these verticals that are part of the adHere organization, adHere family too. So that's a short term right there. The long term play is always venture capital. Living in Silicon Valley, I want to invest into more companies and more businesses and more entrepreneurs where I can not only provide them with resources where I can invest into those resources, but also provide my knowledge and provide my intellect to help them get to a whole nother level. So being one of those investors and these VC investors and angel investors and being able to help those other entrepreneurs that want to get to a whole nother level. And then probably thirdly, which is like middle and still short term as well. My wife and I just started a nonprofit, a 501(c), where we're going and we do a lot of charitable giving every single year. So we want to make a big impact in various different communities. So like right now we're putting together a scholarship for my old high school, like the old high school I grew up in. We just learned that had 12% of those students in my old high school that I grew up in and went to high school at are actually homeless. 12% of those students. And those are only people that actually reported that they're homeless. There's probably another 6 to 8% that are actually homeless too on top of that. So that's like 20% of those students that go to that high school are homeless. So it's things like that we're providing scholarships for those students to get them to a next level. So a lot of people call it giving back. I don't call it giving back. I call it just giving, because giving back signals that you actually took something. I didn't take anything. I'm actually just giving because that's what we like to do. So the more that we give, crazy thing about that is like the more blessed that we become. It's wild how it works.
100%. And I think that's really, it's just a law. You throw it out there, it comes right back. So when if it doesn't, it doesn't, but you keep going and keep moving and it happens.
At some point it comes back tenfold. It does.
It does.
Yep.
That's beautiful. I think really the long term is really impact. Looking to make an impact. You were
That's right.
impacted, obviously, in a lot of ways, right? And you're giving that back. And I think that any person that really cares and that's had success, that's the best. That's the most, like going back to that scarcity mindset we had when we thought rich people were bad, whatever. The ones that are most successful are the ones that give the most.
100%.
Right? They give the most, and then
Yep.
they just keep giving and giving and giving, and they get more back is what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to right there. The more you give, the more you get back.
That's what it comes down to. Well, great way to end the show, man. Ruben, this was amazing. I feel we got to do a part 2. We should do a lot more together, because this was like, not only was it lead gen, we talked about so many different aspects, especially the mental aspect of it, and how to get to that next level. I learned a lot from it. I'm telling you, tomorrow morning, I'm texting you. You're gonna get that text from me that I did the I got back on the whole gratitude train, the gap in the gain sort of situation.
Dude, that's what got you here in the first place, right there.
That's what it was.
Get back to it.
Yeah,
get back.
I get back.
That's right,
guys. You heard it, man. How do people find out more about you, Ruben?
Tag me on Instagram at Ruben Resendez, at RubenResendez. I post on Instagram a lot. I post on LinkedIn a lot too. Just look me up, Ruben Resendez at adHere. And you can visit us at adHere.com.
Yep.
adHereLLC.com. We just secured adHere.com too. So that'll be directed pretty soon. Yep.
Well, good stuff. You heard him. If you like, guys, you like what you heard here, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. A lot more fire content coming. Beautiful show. Great having you on the show, Ruben.
Absolutely.
Let's fucking go, baby.
Let's go.
Love you, man. That was good. That was awesome.